Welcome, everyone who needs a film critic. I'm your host, William Yelton, and today, in honor of the 20th anniversary of the film, we'll be talking with 11 strangers who have just finished watching Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone for the first time. All right, so as mentioned before, everyone in this panel has just finished watching Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone for the first time. Not only have these panelists never seen the films, but they haven't read the books. In other words, they know nothing about what happens in the Harry Potter series. Therefore, tonight, we will be getting their raw reactions as to what they've just seen. This panel comes from all different backgrounds, professions, ages, ethnicities, and geographic locations, and each person, I'm sure, will be bringing in their own unique perspective to the conversation. At the end of the panel, you will each send me your review of the movie 1 to 5, and I will tally up your rankings and give this film the average score provided by you, the panel. First off, y'all are all aliens. I hope you know that, because this was by far the hardest panel to find people who haven't seen nor read the Harry Potter films or books. So my first question to the panel is why? Why has it taken you this long to watch a film that I would argue defined kind of like the early 2000s popular culture? Hasn't it been annoying feeling out of the loop all these years when your friends mention a Harry Potter reference? So who wants to start?
I'll get the ball rolling.
All right, Adam.
Okay, so my background is in summer camp, and every year I feel like I had to actively fight everybody who wanted to do a Harry Potter themed color war. So I was just always actively fighting against it and like, okay, I get it, we'll all be houses. But I don't know. I was just having fun with it. I also tend to like go against the grain. So everyone's saying like, oh, you gotta watch it. But I'm like, no, I don't. But
who else agrees with that? Because I feel like that is kind of like a similar thing. You meet people who haven't seen Harry Potter, they're like, I'm not seeing it because of all the hype.
Oh, that's
Logan,
100%.
That's you were raising. Sorry, Brett.
That's like hating the Dallas Cowboys because if you hate their fans, they may be a good team or something like that. But the Dallas Cowboys, you're like, I just hate the fans, so I'm not going to root for them. It's like Harry Potter. I was like, there's too many nerds out there that you're like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, I hate the Patriots. I get it, man.
For me, I think it's part generational. I'm actually a Gen Xer. So I I was at the time, I had to Google when the movies came out because I just wanted to see what was I doing in my life at that time that I couldn't even like care about this stuff. And it was 2001 was the first movie through to 2011, right? And that whole block was my broadcast news career, which I did nothing but work and did nothing else. So even though I knew about Harry Potter, because I was at that age too, again, as a Gen Xer, it was a little, I wasn't thinking about like, I thought it was a kid's thing.
I was born the year the movie came out. I'm only like a couple months older than this. So.
Oh my gosh. Well, that makes me
sorry to make y'all feel old.
Well, yeah. Thanks for that. Just kidding. But it's interesting because, Charnel just brought up the generational divide. I'd say you, Ben, and Latia, Kiana to some extent as well. You guys should, in theory, have seen the films, and you didn't. So, Ben, did it not hit New Zealand?
I definitely hit New Zealand. It's just never been a thing for me. I've just, skipped over it entirely. In fact, it was about 4 years ago I realized I've never seen Harry Potter. And so I've used it as a two truths and a lie or like a dear sort of thing for a long time. So only now am I breaking that for this panel.
I grew up like in a religious community and like a religious household. And my mom, when it first came out, was like, oh, you can't watch that. That's witchcraft. And so, like a few years down the road when everybody realized, oh, it's Harry Potter. It's a kid's movie. It's harmless. By that time, I was kind of already just like, 15, 16, which is still a good age to watch. But I don't know. It felt like a kid's show to me at that point. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of had moved on, I guess.
I wanted to thank you for making me watch the movie because Universal Studios makes so much more sense now. As you walk down and you go, what the heck is that? Now I'm like, I could be the host of the Keys to the Kingdom. I'd be like, see that? That's Dumbledore over there. Yeah, he's a wizard. He's amazing.
You're a wizard, Harry. It was just spectacular to see where it came from.
You're a wizard, Harry.
I can't be a wizard.
Did you ever make anything happen? Anything you couldn't explain when you were angry or scared?
Dear Mr. Potter, we are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry.
He will not be going, I tell you. We swore when we took him in we'd put a stop to all this rubbish.
You knew. You knew all along and you never told me.
Thoughts on this scene, whether it's the characters, whether it's just the moment itself? Who'd like to start us off?
I wanted it to end. We get it. They're terrible. Move on. Let's go.
Who agrees
that
this part of the movie kind of dragged a little bit too long? Raise your hand.
I
One,
agree
two,
with
3, 4, 5, 6 people. So majority of the panel.
People say Game of Thrones was bad for like 8 episodes. You know what I mean? And some people can't get through The Wire for like a couple seasons. I mean, it takes time to build up the story. And I think this part of the story was just less enjoyable versus learning the new world, like learning, oh, there's a school here. Oh, this bank is like, there's trolls or whatever. And like that part of learning this world was more fun. But yeah, I agree. It just takes time to build, especially a whole new world. So
it's always that way when you're trying to tell a story, especially in a world that is non-existent, right? Like you have to lay everything out in great detail, and you really have to dive deep with exactly what the main character has been through. The character that the focus is going to be on over the course of the entire series. We as the viewers and the audience have to understand where he's come from. And I think it's really going to help us over the course of the next however many movies or whatever chapters to really understand and feel for Harry.
What you didn't go home for Christmas? I had no questions. I was like, yeah, duh, he's not gonna go home for Christmas. So it's like already paid off a little bit,
Yeah.
Yep.
I wanted to feel for Harry. I really wanted to feel, okay, so he's, again, the underdog. I feel bad. With a lot of stories, you always want to try to find the connection or yourself in that character. Some people are dealt a bad hand and you can feel bad for them. So that makes you more endeared to them. But even still, because of the overacting and all of that, I didn't really bond with him. And I think that whole scene was about, oh my God, this poor kid. And, you would want, I guess, the audience to be open to this guy. And I don't know, for me, it just didn't work. I didn't really see myself.
You didn't resonate with Harry at all, even with like the mistreatment from his aunt and uncle. Like nobody's ever treated you poorly like that.
Well, I mean, they're bullies. Okay, so all of these regular kind of things that you overcome, right? And especially in these coming of age kind of stories, how to overcome fears, how to stand up for yourself, learning how to, going through trials and tribulations and how you grow from it. So yes, that was, I get that, but maybe we just have to go a little further on and learn a little bit more about him to, because for me, I still didn't connect with it because they were just so over, they were just so mean.
When I watched that scene, I was like, but why don't they? I was like questioning, why don't they want him to leave? And why don't they want him to be a wizard? It looks like maybe the mom or the aunt was jealous that she wasn't a witch and she was taking out her hatred for her sister out on her son, and she wanted to suppress him or keep him down from fulfilling his potential. I don't know. That's what I took away from it.
I think generally speaking, when you have like really amazing abilities and you have this crazy power, then it's probably in your best interest in a world where everybody doesn't have it to not know about it. That's just my thought, right? Like,
but they didn't even want him to use it. That's the problem. Is if you got a kid there that does magical shit, man, make me eat like lunch or something.
I think the uncle threatened him before they went to the zoo and said, "You better not do anything while we're there."
If they knew they were going to treat him that bad, why did they leave him with that family to begin with? Or is it because he was related to them? Or why couldn't they just leave him with a nicer family? Because ultimately they want him to go to Hogwarts when he was 11 on his birthday. So why leave him with a family that was going to hold him back from going?
Because they're blood, they're family. That's what I thought.
If that scene is introducing us to the world, from here on out, along with Harry, we, the audience, are discovering this new world one scene at a time. We follow Harry as he gets his books and his wand. We follow Harry as he rides the Hogwarts Express and as he meets his new friends. And we, along with Harry, are introduced to the first task that all students must do upon arrival at Hogwarts, which is to be sorted into a house. Let's take a look back at this scene in particular and then discuss.
Harry Potter?
Difficult, very difficult. Not Slytherin, eh? You could be great, you know. It's all here in your head. Better be Gryffindor!
So obviously you guys don't know where the series is heading from here, but watching that scene, it's curious, right? The hat is able to make up its mind pretty quickly with every other character, but with Harry, it deliberates. What is your theory on that? And what else do you extrapolate from the scene? Who'd like to start?
He's just so well-rounded. Look at him go, our protagonist, the main character.
I think maybe why it took a little bit longer was because out of all the people, Harry was actually internalizing where he didn't want to go. And I think the hat was picking up on that. And maybe he was empathetic to the fact that he didn't want to, which would have been interesting if you put him in some other house. But maybe because he was really pleading in his mind, no, not that, not that, not that. Maybe the hat decided to have mercy on him.
It really threw me for a loop. Why does Harry, what does he know about Slytherin already? Like, he just got there. He's met one guy that's kind of briefly mentioned it.
That's true.
That's really threw me for why all of a sudden, like, well, he doesn't want this one house for one guy that he met.
When one person who represents an entire group of people mistreats you or gives you poor vibes, it's really not surprising that he had that really strong.
Zach's bringing it back to real world here.
Also, the other thing that I thought was really, really interesting was when the hat made an incredibly fast decision for Draco. Like, before it was even on his head, it was like the hat was coming down and it was just like Slytherin immediately.
Like, and what do you think that means? Continue that thought.
So I think the hat could immediately sense his not desires, or maybe that he was like very bad-willed, because I get a very bad vibe from Slytherin in general, especially with the way that the creators of the movie portrayed what was the guy's name, the dude with the long black hair,
Snape.
Yeah, especially with the way in which Snape was portrayed really early on, because he was the leader of Slytherin. I just got a bad vibe from them.
I remember his friend, she was telling him how Slytherin, like most of the people in Slytherin turn out to be bad, and they usually don't do anything good with their powers or anything. So that's why I was like, well, I'm pretty sure he doesn't want to go there, and I was hoping he wasn't.
So this is a huge debate within the diehards of Harry Potter fans, right? Some people will literally say, they will scream to the heavens, I'm a Slytherin, and that's not a bad thing. And then there's other people that say the Slytherins are the villains. So if they truly are all bad, why still have that as a house within the school?
I didn't really get the impression that Zach did that they were necessarily bad. I got the impression that they were people that were maybe a little overly cocky, people that they already knew more than they should. And I think that's what we got from Draco. He came into it saying, you know, you're going to learn your friends here. You're going to learn who you can trust. And he was exuding this confidence, not necessarily in a good way. And I think that that's what the hat maybe was picking up on.
I think you got to have your levels of villains. You got to have the middle road that aren't maybe every day-to-day confrontations. And then you got to have your big villain. You can't just go straight to the big villain. So you got Draco or whatever to deal with first, and a couple of the headmasters and all those people first. Then you get the two-headed, whatever the dude's name was.
You know that Slytherin is for some reason going to be an obstacle for Harry. And it's going to be something that's going to be bad because it's bad for Harry. So it's just establishing that even more so by him actually saying, no, I hope I don't get in that house. You know, it makes sense in that respect, I guess.
I don't want to bring politics into it, but it's almost like our political landscape as well. How like the Gryffindor house is like the good guys, and if you associate with Slytherin, you kind of look like people look at you kind of different. But not everybody in the Slytherin house was necessarily bad. Yeah, there was that one kid, Draco was probably the bad one, but ultimately in the end, even the teacher, we associated them being bad because the teacher was bad. But it's almost like, I think, our political landscape. I think Gryffindor is supposed to be this high and mighty, like great, and then the Slytherins look down upon. But that's why I took about it.
The traits, so each house has its own traits, and you can go online and you can figure out what house you're in. The joke is that, you know, you have two houses that people know about, Gryffindor and Slytherin. No one really knows about Hufflepuff and Ravenclaw, but they still have their own qualities. But to be a Slytherin, the traits that are most valued are ambition, resourcefulness, determination, and cleverness. Whereas Gryffindor, the traits are courage, daring, and chivalry.
So I can definitely see Harry in that one. I mean, he was determined at the end. He was going to find out where this Sorcerer's Stone was. He felt it was his job to protect it, to keep it from what he thought was Snape. But so I can see the hat there having a little bit of a dilemma there, deciding where he needs to go.
So the rest of the movie is Harry exploring all that Hogwarts has to offer. So just a quick question to you guys, like, what did you think of the world, this fictitious setting that is Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry?
Super cool. There were just so many unique things about it, like all these random rules. I love this new game. I don't remember the name, but
Quidditch.
I'm a big athlete. Quidditch, yeah, I'm a big athlete myself. I love sports, and just a new game with a new set of rules, and it's just fascinating. It's a new world. How can you not like it?
Horowitz, you do know that there are actual leagues of Quidditch that you can actually sign up to play.
Really
You have to run with
have
the
to look
broom
into that.
between your legs, though. It's kind of weird, but they also have a guy. I played once in college, and you have
Kinda
you have a guy who has a Quidditch ball attached to him, and his job is to run away from the two seekers. So that guy is exhausted.
I'm gonna go order my Nimbus 2000 right now.
Yeah.
It was neat to have a new kind of game or sport introduced. Man, that scene in the long run, did it really affect the plot that much? And I just felt, I think it was 9 minutes long, but it felt like 9 hours. I mean, it just felt like it was going on and on. I was like, in the end, does it really matter?
We need to remember that this was 2001. So I feel like the Quidditch thing was long because they were showing off CGI.
As to it being so long, I found that with a lot of things, whether they were fighting a demon or whether this is how I see it, is that I had trouble connecting with Harry Potter. Yes, he had a bad life in the beginning, but then it got even worse. I was even more detached from him because we learned right away, he's the man. He is the best of the best. Now, you know, he's no longer really the underdog. He can do no wrong, literally do no wrong. So when you're watching that game, you're like, okay, let's get through this because you know he's gonna win. Or if he's fighting some demon, oh, you know it's gonna be fine. And so because he's the best and he's great, you know. So it was so predictable to me, and that made, just like that game, that made that game longer, Quidditch longer to me too, because you just knew it was gonna happen. Let's get to it.
I started liking Harry when he kind of enters the castle, and there's this like Gandalf dude telling him, hey, whatever you do, don't go to the third floor. You get your head chopped off, blood splurting everywhere. And he's saying, you're gonna die, you're gonna do all this shit. And then what does Harry do? He's like, YOLO, let's fucking go to the third floor and let's do it all, baby. And I'm like, Harry, you're my man for the rest of the movie from now on.
While some people like Dumbledore and Hagrid might be Harry's #1 fans, not all professors in the school have a flattering opinion of our main protagonist. So let's take a look at this scene and discuss.
Then again, maybe some of you have come to Hogwarts in possession of abilities so formidable that you feel confident enough. Mr. Potter, our new celebrity. Tell me, what would I get if I added powdered root of asphodel to an infusion of wormwood? Clearly, fame isn't everything.
Rest in peace, Alan Rickman.
Oh, yeah, that's my boy.
Who'd like to talk about this character and this scene?
I hated this scene. Like Harry is writing notes like a good studious person. Like, is he supposed to know all of these things before he goes to school to learn them?
Exactly.
Like, I think Snape is just being a bitch and wants to call him out in front of everybody just to prove his point that like
Snape's a
fame
bitch.
isn't everything. But like, he's an 11-year-old who's never learned about magic. He's supposed to know about magic. I just hated it from like a student standpoint. Like, I couldn't.
Like that's exactly what he's supposed to be in that class to learn these answers. Like being like someone who's going into education, there's an alarming amount of like teachers and professors and educators who do stuff like this, who are just like not, I don't know, I want to say not good at their job, but like they're not good at their job, you know, like it's it's a whole mess.
And I'm on the other end of Kiana here. That scene is one of my favorite of the whole movies. And it's not necessarily for what happened in the scene, but for Alan Rickman. I mean, just he stole that scene for me there. Was an amazing actor. That the monologue he delivers there at the beginning, just that scene to me was powerful. And then I do agree that he was kind of picking on Harry a little bit, but we look at someone who it kind of reminds us how sheltered he was. He was away from this. He's 11 now and just coming into this world. He didn't know anything about it. And it also let us know what a bookworm and Hermione was, which means that Harry made a wise choice of befriending someone who knows more and can teach him. So
he steals every scene. He's awesome.
Yeah, like while I think he's an awful educator, like his character is just so like well written. Yeah. Like you hate him, but then you kind of like him, but then you hate him again, then you kind of love to hate him again. He's not a villain. He's not on that full spectrum. I think he's somewhere just smack dab in the middle. He's kind of the opposition to Harry, but not in the villainous way that, you know, a traditional villain will be to a hero in, you know, classic literature.
It just seemed like it ain't over. Yeah, I mean, you think he's a villain, then at the end he's actually the good guy, and it just seems like too straightforward.
Just from a story perspective, I don't think he's a hero or a villain is going to help a character move along, but they're going to do it in heroic ways or they're going to do it in villainous ways. They're going to be more of an obstacle for Harry, not a helping hand. So even though he's a villain, although he will serve a purpose and maybe he'll have heroic moments like a Miss Hannigan, I think overall he's more, in the big picture, he's more of a villain.
I think he was looking after Harry silently, and I think the scene where at the end when in the Quidditch game when he was reversing the spell, so he was silently looking after Harry, and he didn't want Harry to know he was looking after him because I think he wanted to get the best out of Harry because he probably saw Harry's true potential.
Because again, he's the golden boy. He knows. I mean, he's popular. Let me take him down a few pegs and make sure that he's tough enough and he's not going to let this get to his head. So that's kind of how
exactly.
He was showing tough love at the same time, like he wants good for him because he see that he can do it, but with a slight sense of a little bit of jealousy.
It also really depends on what you define your hero and villain as. For me, like looking throughout the whole story, do I think Snape is going to be the helping hand to Harry? No, I think he's going to be very much like the boulder he has to push through in order to make it to the end. But I think in the end, Snape and Harry will have a level of respect for one another where Snape will either like sacrifice himself or do something that puts him at a disadvantage and Harry at an advantage at the end of the day. And I guess that's my definition of a hero for this movie. But do I think he's a heroic and good person right now? No, I think he's more on the villainous side.
Kiana, you strike me as someone who would be raising their hand a lot in class like Hermione. Am I
100%.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say you read me like a book, but
well, one character that we absolutely do know who is a villain is Voldemort. Excuse me. He who must not be named, sorry. And during the course of this movie, unbeknownst to us and the characters, he successfully takes on the form of Professor Quirrell. Let's take a look back at the climax of this movie and then discuss.
Stop him! Kill him!
What are your thoughts on the scene?
And
I hated how short it was. Like, we have the Quidditch scene, which is years long. We have all these other scenes that are just dragging on, and then like the climax, like the biggest part of the movie, and it's 2 minutes. And he like, I was expecting some like dramatic fight scene or like something, and I don't know, I found it, like, even though it was the highest peak of the movie, I felt like it fell very short, and it just wasn't my favorite.
I just want to point out, this is the most dangerous school. I would never send my kid to school.
Yeah.
You're handing out Nimbus 2000s like they're pencil sharpeners and saying, hey, go try one of these. And they're like flying into walls and shit. I was like, that's not responsible, Dumbledore. No.
Do you think because we watched this movie 20 years later and we've seen so much more technology in films and so much more better action scenes, maybe 20 years ago, that was a great action fight scene. But now, after seeing all the great action movies over the last 20 years, this doesn't even compare.
What was the action? Like hands to the face?
Like, what's the thing with his hands? Like, how did he die? I guess I just don't get it. Like, how
Why
did
does
his
he need
hands...
a wand if he can do that shit with his hands? Why
No.
does he...
Yeah, I guess
So I guess it doesn't. They don't do a good job. Perhaps it's the stone that makes his hand.
Oh, okay. See, I had no clue on that.
Yeah,
So
they didn't explain it well.
So
I
the
thought the
Sorcerer's
explanation
Stone
was
killed him.
Harry had love inside of him, and
Yeah,
the other
that's what
guy
I thought
didn't.
too.
Dumbledore
I thought it
did
was
say
Voldemort was evil.
Could he have not picked up the stone any slower? Oh my god. I know I'm embracing the invisibility cloak right now, so sorry.
Obviously the story's not over, right? So that's just the end to the first movie. So it's like, maybe it's not the greatest climax ever, but it's only chapter 1 of what, there's like 8 movies. So
You're saying that Harry Potter might have won the battle, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he won the war.
well, it's just like,
Right.
you know, the
Dude,
hands
gotta
to the
wait.
face, kind of lame, but that's not like this end of the story. You know what I mean? I mean, that's just chapter 1, I guess.
Just the beginning.
All good things come to an end, and this movie is no different. Classes are over, and Harry must return home. Let's take a look back at the last scene in the movie and then discuss.
Come on, Harry. 1 minute.
Thought you were leaving without saying goodbye, did you?
Feels strange to be going home, doesn't it? I'm not going home. Not really.
Gotta love John Williams. He composes every damn movie, and this score is just as beautiful.
Without the music, it would have been like, it added to the emotion. That the music made the scene for me. And it finally, this was the second time in the movie where I actually somewhat connected with Harry, like that emotion.
When the train was pulling away and they were all waving by and Hagrid was also waving by, it immediately made me think of my time at summer camp. So every summer since 2007, I went to summer camp, and you know, you get there on the first day and you meet your counselors, just like Harry did with Hagrid when he busted through the door. And then in this final scene, we see the train pull away and, you know, everybody waving bye to each other. And it made me think of me waving bye to my counselors and then ultimately becoming a counselor one day and waving bye to my kids. So I really thought it was cool that, you know, Hagrid and Harry were able to create this relationship and then become really close. And Hagrid was the last person that Harry said bye to, even when, you know, Hermione was like, come on, Harry, let's get on. And he's like, give me 1 second. I got to say bye to my counselor. And then they pulled off. So I thought that was really cool, and it resonated with me deeply.
Being that the whole movie to me was just so predictable, I really longed for some kind of twist. I just wanted something. So when we get to this last scene, I'm like, okay, will it be like a Marvel kind of thing where something comes up that gives you some kind of foreshadowing for what's in the next movie or the next book? There's got to be something.
I'm with Charnel. I wanted some kind of twist, and in the end, we get this scene, and I'm like, so really, I just watched a 2.5-hour movie of a guy finding his family. And I try to remind myself that we're setting up, you know, all these other books, but I'm like, I wanted something. I wanted some kind of twist, and it's like, we found out that Harry found his family here at Hogwarts, and as a completionist, now I know I'm sucked in for 7 more movies.
What are predictions as to what you think will happen during this franchise? And then we'll talk about the movie overall.
Redheaded dude is hooking up with crazy hair.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, 100%. I wrote that down. Absolutely.
You're saying Ron and Hermione?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. They hit heads too much.
I think Voldemort, of course, is gonna come back to try to get them, or at least get rid of Dumbledore. And I'm confused. Well, I'm wondering what's gonna happen with Harry, since like in that last scene almost where Voldemort, he like ran through his body. I want to know what's gonna happen with that. So I'm kind of curious to see what's gonna go on with that.
Did something get transferred?
Yeah, like that's what I want to know.
I see you, Latia. I see.
The biggest thing for me is that Dumbledore has to die, because they pressed it so much, how he is safety, he is the beacon, he is the one, and so it just laid it on too thick for me. I was like, he's gonna go.
Charnel and DJ are saying yes, please.
Yeah.
Maybe McGonagall will become like the next headmaster. I don't know, because she seems to be like his right-hand woman.
I think it would be really cool to see Harry and Draco like have to get to a point where they have to work together.
Something is not what it seems, and like, something a la Scream 3, the whole trilogy thing, something going back to the beginning.
There's 2 killers.
Something funky.
And you can watch our Screen panel on Who Needs a Film Critic. Why do you think this movie, that this franchise, that these books hit the zeitgeist the way it did? It's hard to dispute that this franchise really did capture the imagination of an entire generation.
I think it's because of the time it came out. I think if you started the first Harry Potter movie in 2021, I don't think it takes off as big as it did. I think it being when it did, not a big social media age, around the time where people were reading more books around that time.
Yeah.
And the youth of America was different in 20 years ago than the youth of America is today. I don't think this franchise takes off if it started today.
Also, I think this was the exact moment where British media was kind of taking off worldwide almost, especially film. And so, it was just like expansive, it was great UK propaganda.
Were the books super successful before the movie?
Yes.
So I mean, then this was definitely made for those people that were fans of the books, and was it their popularity and their continuing to like pump it up that just it came out again around the time of 9/11, and were we needing something to kind of bring us together and talk about and get our minds off of the tragedy and everything that was going on? So I don't know if that kind of snowballed and contributed to it at all. I did watch it. I have a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old. I did watch it with them, and they were kind of with me. They just were like, ho hum, and they are fans of Star Wars, and maybe it's because they, like father like kids, but they just didn't really like take to it either. It was like, okay, it's here, and it was nice, but nothing special.
Here's what the director said. He said that he believes that these books and these movies were so popular and are still popular because every kid wants to get that letter in the mail that says, you know what, your life is going to change. You're special. You're going to go into this wonderful world called Hogwarts. And so he thinks that especially it's literally just that the fact that people are looking for hope, and that hope can come in a form of a letter, and then suddenly your whole world is transformed and you meet all your friends and all that stuff. Before this panel, I asked each of you to rate the movie 1 to 5, 1 meaning you hated it, and 5 being you absolutely love it. Before the panel, y'all rated Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone a 2.9. Who loved it? Someone rated it a 5.
I did. I rated it a 5.
Latia, you be proud of it. You own it. Okay. Why did you love it? Let us know.
I loved it because I'm just interested in knowing like the rest of how it's gonna go, how the other movies are gonna be. It just, I don't know. It pulled me in, and I feel like I'm gonna continue to watch it regardless. Like, I don't know. That's the main reason.
I just kind of look at it like a kid's movie, and so I give it 4. Like, I like it. It's good. I think my rating will probably get better as you fill in the rest of the story, but it's fine,
2.5, 3 hours movie, you can make that an hour and 50 minutes and make it so much better. Just boom, 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 shoot the shit really fast.
The only reason why I didn't rate this movie a 1 was because of my favorite scene in the movie, which I was hoping it would be a scene that we were going to review, because it actually had a powerful message too.
Was it the mirror?
The mirror.
Yes.
20 years ago, today, it still will resonate. Like when he says the happiest man in the world looked in the mirror and all he saw was his reflection. And the mirror actually shows your internal desires. I was like, wow, that is some deep stuff. That's the only reason why this movie didn't get a 1. We all look in the mirror every day, and obviously we all stare at it and wondering, I wish but isn't it the whole goal to get to the point where you just look at the mirror and just smile, and then you see your reflection smiling back at you? And that's what the happiest man in the world actually saw. I was like, wow, that was so powerful.
I did really appreciate the mirror scene. And, you know, I look at so many people, myself included, at times that we stare in the mirror and we see those goals that we want to achieve, and we just look at them in the mirror and we don't go after them. So I did appreciate that. You know, and again, and the acting of Alan Rickman, that brought it up from a 1 to a 2 for me.
Raise your hand if you would continue watching the series after watching this first film. Raise your hand.
Only
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people. All right, that concludes today's discussion on Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Tune in next month to see what some of these panelists and others think about Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. I would like to thank the panelists for giving me their time tonight, and to the viewers watching at home, remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. We are also on the podcast app, so type "Who Needs a Film Critic" to get all the episodes downloaded straight to your phone. That's all for now. Good night, and enjoy being a muggle.